Hey guys, this is Faster U4 brought to you by Fitland, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. If you're a cyclist, you want to go faster? Then let's giddy up. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Faster U4 brought to you by Fitland, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. Right, so with some of the hilly races coming up over the next part of the season, I thought I'd put a bit of a quick bit of research together for you about what it takes to how you define yourself as a good hill climber, what that means, and how it's expressed in terms of watts per kilo. So everyone has this has a notion that your outright power is important, but when it comes to going up hills, it's your power, how much of a giant sack of meat you have to cart around with that power. It's going to determine how fast you go up a hill. So it's your power divided by your weight, expressed as watts per kilogram, is usually the best way to determine how good a hill climber you are. So I've put together the biggest, baddest hill climbs in Wellington, a list of the some of the biggies, and done some heavy duty data stalking here in Strava. I'll leave the best three till last, and we'll go through some of the data. So the first one here, we've got O'Fero Bay to the turbine. So this is the segment 7.76 Ks, an average of 5% grade, pretty medium grade. It has got some heavy duty grade in the middle and near the end of it. Total elevation of 357 meters, category 2 climb. It's been climbed 751 times, so you can see the direction it takes there. Relatively consistent. You can see this piece in the middle is pretty steep. So let's have a look at the leaderboard for this. Third place got Dave Weaver, second place Tristan Thomas, and first place in May 2015 Anthony Nalder took this out in 18 minutes 29 seconds. Now I don't have there is power data for these riders, but they don't have weights listed. So I've had to rely on my time for this. I did a time in 2015 that was about 1 minute slower, 19 minutes 34, just over a minute slower than Anthony. So I averaged 362 watts. So let's have a look at what that means. So a minute slower, assuming similar wind conditions, in terms of watts per kilo. What did I say? 18 minutes or so. We got about what was my time? 1934 for 19 minutes and 34 seconds. I did 4.86 kilos, something like that, just under the 5 watts per kilo mark. All right, so if I'm an 80 kilo rider, what was I putting out? Just under 400 watts, 380, something like that. What was mine? 362 watts. I was probably thinner back then. All right, let's look at climb number 2, the Douse Drive climb. This is out in Lower Hutt. This is kind of one of the bigger of the Western Hutt hill climbs. 2.56 Ks, an average grade of 8%. Total climbing of 200 meters, a category 3 climb. 978 attempts on this one. It's relatively consistent climb, actually. It's quite nice. There's a piece in the middle that's a little bit flat by the shops. Apart from that, it's pretty good. You can see the leaderboard for this. Ryan Cork in third place, me in second, and the winner, Josh Aldridge, September 20th, 2016, 7 minutes and 42 seconds. That is hauling. I don't have power for that data, so for those riders, but I do have power for me, who has a second place, about 40 seconds behind Josh. So let's see what it takes to get 40 seconds, a second on the leaderboard for Douse Drive climb. Here's my data from that day. So watts per kilo. And what did I say my time was? 8 minutes 26. 8 minutes 26. About 5.45 watts per kilo. So again, a little higher Just bordering on the mid fives there, 5.45 watts per kilo for that climb. Now this is when we're gonna start to go into the next few here that get a little bit harder. By the way, to put this into perspective, it's sort of generally been considered that non-doping riders in the mountain climbers in the Tour de France, 6 to 6.5 watts per kilo is a very good level for a long mountain pass. 20 to 25 minutes of climbing, maybe 30 minutes of climbing, something like that at the very best. Doping performances is 7 plus watts per kilo. You look at things like Lance's ascent of Alpe d'Huez time trial in 2004 Tour de France, somewhere north of 6.5, 7, maybe 7 plus watts per kilo for about 30 minutes there, which is wildly obscene. And you've got to remember that's in the third week of a Grand Tour. All right, so let's have a look at the next climb here. We've got Rumataka Hill. This is out in north of Upper Hutt. This is a long one, 4.65 k's, an average grade of 6%. Total elevation of 279 metres. This is just the main chunk of the climb. There is some bits before this. This is just the main bit where it's a relatively consistent gradient. Category 3 climb, 1,258 attempts. And the leaderboard here in third place, Heath Lett. Second place, Joe Cooper. First place, Josh Aldridge again. Last year, in January, time of 11 minutes 56. If you don't know what this means, by the way, it says, if you're looking at the screen, it's got VAM, vertical, I think Vitesse altitude meters or something like that, meaning speed of climbing. So it expressed as meters per hour. 1,403 on this one. Some climbs in the Tour de France you might see of over 2,000, 1,500 to 2,000 per hour, which is insane. Again, we don't have proper data for these top riders, but I do have the 5th place on this climb, about just over a minute behind Josh's time that I said in 2015. So let's see what it takes to get a minute slower than that guy. Here's my power curve for that day. My time was 13:05. My power curve for 13:05 was, watts per kilo here on Strava, 13:05, 4.72 watts per kilo, so a little under the 5 mark. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the kind of one of the more well-stalked hill climbs in Wellington. You'll see by the fact that it's got 20,563 attempts on it. It's really sort of considered, anyone who can haul up this climb, even sub 10 minutes is pretty good, but you can see some of the people in the leaderboard doing much better than that. It's 2.56 k's, an average grade of 7%. Elevation of 189 meters. Really nice and consistent. It's actually, you can see from the gradient, it's really consistent. It's just a little twisty, but it's pretty good. But you can get into a great rhythm. So top 3 in this, Andy Hagen pulling out 6 minutes 40. Joe Cooper again, 6 minutes 16. But look at this one, Hamish Bond, doing a bit of KOM hunting one day. VAM of 1,848. Time of 6:08. So let's look at what it takes. This is Hamish Bond's data to get the record on this hill climb. Here's Hamish Bond's data for that day. Let's hover on watts per kilo on where we're at there, and look at this one, 6.16 watts per kilo. So here we are getting into the 6 plus watts per kilo range, the pro level. This is what pros can do. By the way, Hamish Bond can put out this sort of power close to it on the flat as well, which is unbelievable. If you're interested in what that actually equates to in terms of pure wattage, 505 watts. So just over So if it's 505 watts, and we know that's just over 6 watts per kilo, 6, 8, 40. So he's probably, he probably weighs about 80 kilos. 6, 8, yeah, 40, yeah. You know, he's probably got 80 kilos listed in the system here, which is right. But he can put out 505 watts for that period of time. Yeah, that's incredible. Let's look at this. We've got 2 more to go here. These are some big dogs, and we have, for these top 3 climbs, actual power data, just like this one. Let's look at what we've got here. Blue Mountains climb to the community sign. So this is again like a really popular climb in Upper Hutt. 2.24 Ks, average grade of 8%, slightly steeper. Total elevation of 190 meters, category 3 climb again, and 12,681 attempts. A really well used climb in Upper Hutt. It's pretty, it looks weird on the gradient here on Strava. It looks lumpier than it is. It's pretty consistent climb. Reminds me a lot actually of the macro one. Let's look at the leaderboard here. Top 3, we've got Andy Hagen again. He had a great ride on this, 6 minutes 27. Ollie Jones, that's fantastic. Good climber, Ollie, 6 minutes 26. But look at this. Joe Cooper hit this one pretty hard one day out in training, I think. A VAM of 1837. Again, that's very close to the sort of level you were seeing from Hamish Bond before, in a time of 6:12. And actually, no, I don't have Joe's data, but I do have here for Taylor Gunman, who only did about 20 seconds slower, so it'll be a very similar watts per kilo. So let's have a look at what we've got here in the Easter Tour. Taylor Gunman setting this 4th fastest time, still 1700 VAM, 414 watts. So 6 minutes 36, Taylor coming in with close to 6.3, 6.27, 6.3 watts per kilo. So that's getting super pro territory right now. All right, let's look at the lucky last. Even bigger than this, probably one of the most impressive hill climbs anyone's ever done in Wellington. It's recorded here on Strava. This is a big daddy as well. This is the Horokiwi Road climb. 5.4 Ks, so it's long. 7% grade. It is steep in places, especially the lower half. It's relatively consistent, but it's quite steep. It averages probably, somewhere between 7 to 10% for that. There's a flatter piece in the middle, and then it kicks up again. Total elevation gain of 362 meters, category 2 climb, which is pretty chunky. 671 attempts in total. Let's have a look at the leaderboard here. 3rd place again, Andy Hagen. In 2014, he did a time of 15:26. Joe Cooper, in 2016, did a time of 14:31. It was Hamish Bond, 14:04, so just about 30 seconds faster than Joe Cooper. Let's see what it takes to get up a climb like that in 14 minutes. What the level is. I've got it here. This is Hamish Bond's data from the day. All right, and I'll leave you with this. Watts per kilo. Let's have a look here. Sorry, his time was, what was it? 14:04. His power drops down a little bit. You can see for the majority of the climb here, 9 minutes of it was total for the 14 minutes was about just under 6 watts per kilo. But let's look at this main part of the climb here, where you can actually put down considerable amounts of power relatively consistently. If you're looking at the screen, you can see that. It's pretty insane. If you're not, here it is, best part of 9 minutes, 6.44, close to 6.5 watts per kilo. And that, but that's probably near the limit of non-EPO performances. Probably that wouldn't be a doable performance for a non-top tier pro climber after several days of racing. So Hamish is obviously pretty fresh in this ride. no doubt a clean rider, and putting out close to 6.5 watts per kilo for the best part of 9 minutes there on this climb is, it's doable, but that is wildly powerful riding in terms of outright watts. We did the math on it before, but 530, just a smidge under 530 watts, 528 watts, about just under 6.5 watts per kilo. So that's the best hill climb performances from around Wellington on Strava. If you've got any other ones that you think should be added, just let me know. If you can, a good rule of thumb to win a B grade race, assuming that medium grade longish climb is part of the deal, like a lot of the North Island Team Series races are. Stuff like Taupo, 5+ watts per kilo can generally get you near the front end of an A grade race. 4.5 watts per kilo would be nice for a B grader. That sort of level, and in the pro ranks you really need to be about 6+ watts per kilo. If you want to have a look at something here, I'll just show you a interesting little comparison. If you just, this is so popular that you can just Google just how good are these guys, and I think probably one of the first hit, here they go. Well, the first hits there is a Cycling Tips article from last year with a chart. This chart probably wasn't devised last year, may have been. If you scroll down here, you have a nice big chart with a ton of numbers, and if I can zoom in on that, I'll zoom in for you, there you go. So you can see here, this FT, that would represent any climb. Really, that's functional threshold, but any climb more than about 10 minutes is really a threshold, going to be a threshold power climb. And you can see 6.6 watts per kilo is about what the world champion or world record holder can do for males. For women, sorry, I haven't mentioned women, and this is not as much data to go on and not as much quality data. Maybe I should do another one with women. About 1 watt per kilo less for women, 5.69 for women. So that's the top climbers. Anything more than about a 10-minute climb, if you can climb at 6.6 watts per kilo, that's top shelf non-doping performances. So the sorts of stuff we were looking at where it was sort of like my data was maybe around that 5 watt per kilo data is our level. That gives me, sort of A grade here, in the middle of A grade. In this B grade I was talking about here, Cat 2, that's the American version, 4.5 there, about the middle of that range is about 4.5 watts per kilo, what I was talking about. C grade, 3.9 watts per kilo. D grade, a little less, goes down less dramatically though, about 3.4. E grade, you want about 2.8, 2.7. The average punter, average untrained person here could probably put out about 2.2 watts per kilo. So that's 3 times as much power, 3 times full for a pro male road cyclist for climbing. And you can see those performances from Hamish Bond, Taylor Gunman in the middle of this world-class threshold climbing power range, 6 to 6.6 watts per kilo. So if you are a 75 kilo rider and you want to know what it's probably going to take to be near the pointy end of A grade racing, sort of club racing and a place like this, somewhere around 570, if you can put out 300 and if you climb at 370, 380 watts per kilo, 360, 370, 380 watts reliably for more than about 10 minutes, that's a really good level. So that's just to give you an idea. Just multiply your weight by 5. It's surprisingly accurate for determining where you'll come. The other thing I'd say is, of course, this is a pure power to weight equation. It's not taking into account the fact that a climb is not a purely vertical exercise. It's a grade. So these power to weights will become more important as the grade increases. So if you're a rider, the smaller you are, and the more power you've got, so the better your power to weight, the better that is for you, the steeper it gets. You'll notice these little guys, but when the road gets a little flatter, even if you're still climbing, but the grade goes down to 2, 3, even 4%, you'll notice the bigger units of higher gross power start coming back because the power to weight doesn't matter so much. The more vertical it gets, the more important that power to weight gets. So it's worthwhile keeping that into account. If you are kind of a bigger unit and you've got good gross power, don't despair, because no, you may not have the pure watts per kilo, but you can still climb quite well, especially if it's not super steep. Use that to your advantage. Alright guys, I hope you found that interesting. Happy training, as always. If you'd like a training plan from me, you can email me, steve@fitlab.co.nz. You can go to fitlab.co.nz. As always, this is brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. I'll see you on the weekend.